Hi, welcome everybody that's joining us today. We really do appreciate you taking the time to spend a few minutes with Netsync and Unitrends, our great backup partner. They're going to be presenting some solutions today. Right now, we're also going to be providing bourbon after the event for the attendees. We wanted to make sure everybody was just as eager to hear the presentation as they were to receive the bourbon. But I just want to introduce myself. I'm Shawn. I'm the Director of Vendor Management at Netsync Network Solutions. And today with us, we have Lincoln Glover and also Mohammad Al-Shafie. And I wanted to go ahead and turn it over to Lincoln at this point in time to say thank you for attending the event today. Lincoln?
Hey, Shawn, thanks for that warm welcome. We appreciate it again. Looks like we got a nice crowd, about 16 folks out there. So thanks for making some time. My name's Lincoln Glover. I'm the partner manager for Netsync and the Central US. I've got Mohammad Al-Shafie with us as well today. He's our Director of Global Presales Engineering. He's pretty much worn every hat that's available on the technical side of the business. We're really excited to talk a little bit about backup and recovery and bourbon. So you want to go ahead and hit the next slide for me, Mo? Real quick, I just want to give a big shout out to our friends over at Netsync. These guys have really done a heck of a job for us out in the field, not only bringing customers and building awareness around our technology, but deploying that technology and ensuring that our customers are getting the maximum value out of their investment in our solution set. As you can see on the screen, they've got dedicated practices across technology with strong subject matter experts and technical benches to support these functional groups. So whether it's backup and recovery, networking, public cloud, security, Netsync is a partner that we're really proud to collaborate, and I'm sure they're very helpful for you as well. So next slide, please, Mo. Next slide, Mo. There we go. All right. So, yeah, man, you're good, brother. Really quick, we wanted to set a baseline and just, talk about, to be considered bourbon. There's a couple requirements, and my grandfather actually worked for Seagram, so we're very familiar with liquor in my family. But there's 6 big things we wanted to talk about to educate folks and just share some knowledge here. In order to be considered bourbon, liquor needs to meet a couple of requirements, right? So number one, it's got to be made in America. So no German or English or Scotch or, bourbon is only in the USA. It's got to be made of no less than 51% corn mash. The blend is very important. It's got to be aged in a new unused charred barrel. So, no recycling of the barrels. It's got to be distilled at no higher than 80% alcohol by volume. So no Everclear. When it goes into the barrel, it can't be any higher than 62.5% alcohol by volume. And then finally, it's got to be filled into the bottle no less than 40% alcohol by volume, no more than 160% alcohol by volume. I've drinking a lot of bourbon in my days. I'm sure, some of you folks have as well. I really wasn't aware of the level of specificity involved around putting the name bourbon on a bottle. So there you go.
Pretty interesting information you're able to find there.
Yeah, give me a job and I try to do it. So what does this all have to do with backup and recovery, right? I'm sure you're wondering that at home. The funny thing is, it actually has absolutely nothing to do with backup and recovery. We wanted to give you guys a cool token of appreciation for spending some time with us. But we also wanted to kind of get our heads thinking and kind of be creative around sharing with you some best practices and some must-haves, if you will, around the data center as relates to data protection and backup and recovery. And and really quick, next, Google. I was doing some research trying to find all these bourbon tidbits for everyone, and I come to find out that even Brown and Forman, they're out of Louisville, Kentucky. Just this week, they hit the news with a ransomware attack, a new generation ransomware attack, where the bad guys, if you will, were actually they penetrated the environment. They were in the environment for over a month. They even ran small-scale attacks within the environment to gain a higher level awareness around the security posture of Brown and Forman. So these guys are getting into the network. They're orchestrating attacks on a small scale so that they can, execute more effectively when it's actually showtime, which I think is really kind of the next generation or iteration of ransomware, if you will. The ransomware demand was kind of on the low end. It was only 50,000, which is a drop in the bucket if you consider it for a company of this size. I'm kind of feeling though like Brown and Forman was pretty confident next in their backup and recovery posture because they told the bad guys rather, to stick their ransom where the sun doesn't shine. So I want to go ahead and transition over to the technical brains of the outfit. Mo Al-Shafie has been with us close to 15 years, if not more. Started out in our post-sales support group down in Columbia, South Carolina. That's where our paths crossed. I was a young sales guy, and he was a guy that would talk to me and help me get better. So we've got 6 things we want to talk about today with you as relates to backup and DR, certified recoverability, ransomware proof. We want to talk a little bit about our 3-2-1 rule for redundancy, cloud-enabled backups, predictable billing, and ease of consumption in the cloud. Mo, is that a pretty warm, did I set the stage for you okay?
You have. Thank you very much.
Anybody else out there think Pappy's overpriced? All right, I think Sarah's got everybody on. I think Sarah's got everybody on mute. I was expecting a wild roar of applause. Well, Mo, I will. I'll hand it over to you and let you get into the meat of the technical dialogue. Thank you, everybody, again for coming out today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lincoln. Thank you, Netsync, for hosting such a great webinar on such an important topic. And I hope everybody found some lightheartedness in drawing some parallels between backup and bourbon. Some could argue that bourbon could be used for taking the edge off when you're hit with situations where you weren't doing some of the things that we're going to talk about here today to kind of help with the stress. But hopefully nobody runs into that. But the threats that are facing environments, especially things like ransomware, it was pure coincidence, obviously, that ransomware for something like the owners of Jack Daniels to have to deal with. And we're so glad to see that the response they had was that of reflective on them being very, very well postured to be able to deal with something like a ransomware attack. And the one that hit them is pretty nasty. It's one of those that will auction off their data into the dark web, and they've actually shown them some proof of some of their files. I think there was about 1 terabyte of data that was stolen from records dating back as far as 10 years, and so just not a great thing to deal with. But when it comes to planning for these things, you can plan, you can look at diagrams, you can listen to consultants, but you still won't know that all your recovery capabilities will actually work without actually testing them. And this is because when it comes to DR, planning for that, making sure that your backup strategy works well with your DR strategy, there are so many moving parts where there are so many doors open to things going wrong. Network configurations don't get replicated properly. Application dependencies are not in sync across sites. DR resources may become insufficient over time. And the worst time to actually identify these things is when it's an emergency time. That's the absolute worst time that you want to find out that you haven't been doing what you should be doing, and that's what we want to talk about today, is ensuring that um, the due diligence is being done in a manner that allows you to have that same confidence in being able to recover from these attacks or whatever may face your environment. The cost of failure is high. Failing to recover or deflect attacks results in business downtime. There's no two ways about that. While the cost of application downtime varies dramatically across industries, and what we're looking at here, an average for all organizations is about that $9,000 per minute. And it's across different size organizations, large and small, and that takes into consideration decreased productivity, lost revenue, and other negative business impacts, as the research by the Ponemon Institute showed. While providing a 99% uptime is great, 99.9%, and some would argue that's excellent. Shortening that to just 99.99% saves the average organization about $350,000 per month. This level of uptime is only possible if data protection and recovery solutions are tested regularly, with issues identified that may slow recovery down and taken out of the way. So testing your posture is of critical importance. The Unitrends annual survey, we asked over 800 IT professionals how often they test their recovery capabilities. And the majority of responding organizations reported testing their DR plans only once per year, or less, or not at all. A lot of challenges occur in IT infrastructure, obviously, over the course of a year. Additionally, most industries' governing bodies require companies to have business continuity plans and know and document the results from those. So, makes you wonder, right, with the pressure to keep business up and running, why are tests being conducted so infrequently? So we want to explore some of the common reasons that are out there that we hear about. So if we step back for a second and make sure everybody here agrees that regularly testing recovery is the right thing to do. So what does the testing actually provide? Begs the question. It provides confidence. Documenting and maintaining a recovery plan is now an essential task for IT and the overall organization. You need to prove to your business units and stakeholders, and these are conversations we have with IT folks all the time, and C levels and VPs and chiefs at companies that we work with, that you have to have a verifiable process in place to recover your business services. You need to give the confidence that applications can run in an emergency and that documentation exists that can prove it. Keeps everybody covered, right? Identification of recovery issues. A good testing process will identify issues that impact recovery way ahead of actually needing that recovery. These can then be addressed prior to a real emergency if any issues were to actually arise. So that's a very important one as well. And then compliance reporting, where most companies have industry mandates that require protection against loss of data and functionality. Healthcare organizations, for example, right? You have HIPAA mandates that require not only DR protection, but also that recovery technologies are tested regularly so auditors can see the results. And they're going to come in there and they're going to expect to see the results of documentation that proves that the posture is good. You need to enable your departments and your IT to meet these, and the business obviously to meet these compliance requirements. SOX, Sarbanes, Oxley, SOX compliance is regulated by all publicly traded companies, in addition to requiring corporate officers to take greater responsibility for the accuracy of financial reports, right? Mandates that organizations understand the risk that may impact the financial reporting process. A proper assessment of this risk should include IT risks resulting from inadequate disaster recovery on business continuity plans. And then finally, the big thing is job security. Failing to raise the criticality of testing can leave the business exposed in ways that limit the careers of IT professionals, unfortunately. So, very, very important topic that we wanted to talk about here, and also explore the levels of testing that we're talking about, and which there are many of, right? There are many different ways companies can test data, backup, and DR capabilities. Some are very basic and check only the data has been replicated to the right location. Few will actually test functionality to ensure job functions can actually be performed. We see a lot of gaps in that. Vendors of backup and recovery out there, some of our competitors as well, may support only lower levels of testing. Yet, if you look at their material, they'll claim that they have full testing capabilities. So it puts the onus right on the consumer to research and determine exactly what is being supported by the claims of that vendor, and explore the different levels that are available, basic to advanced. So you have data verification. This test basically checks that just blocks and files are good after they've been backed up. Needless to say, this level of testing does nothing to ensure the applications can actually be recovered or even functional once they do. You have database mounting, verifies a database has basic functionality within backups. Single machine boot verification, that's pretty much useless if you're needing to stand up an entire environment. And what that does is just verify that a single server can be rebooted after a downtime event. But when you're talking about a full-scale disaster, you're going to need something more robust, obviously, than that. Single machine boot with screenshot verification. Before the rise of ransomware, it was good enough, but with the things that we're facing today, where ransomware, for example, hits a machine, doesn't keep the machine from booting up, powering off, booting up again. They'll keep the OS running, so you can pay them the money. Just stopping at screenshot verification is not good enough, obviously. And then you have DR runbook testing. Multiple machines are spun up for testing. This is especially important for multiple servers that deliver a business service together, such as an ERP system, clustered databases. Vendors of backup and recovery technology may support only lower levels of testing, yet they will, again, claim to have full testing capabilities. So you want to be aware of that. And then you have recovery assurance. And this is the highest level of testing, as it includes multiple application servers, multiple or deeper application testing, I should say, assessments of SLAs and analytics as to the reason any anomalies or recoveries fail to happen. Anything other than recovery assurance is still going to leave questions about a full recovery. For example, booting to the splash screen, like I said earlier, may indicate that the operating system can boot up, but does it do anything beyond that to actually check the health of the machine? And that's what recovery assurance provides. It provides nothing about its functionality and responsiveness to the business, because you're not doing that extra due diligence of ensuring that the machine can A, boot up, B, be healthy from the data that was included in the backup. So anything other than recovery assurance, as I was saying earlier, still leaves questions about full recoverability for ensuring business continuity of that application that it may be hosting. So, and IT professionals, we're not you know, we know what's going on, but if testing is so important, why are companies out there not testing more often? We started wondering. And the reason testing can be, you know, of other things, of a lot of other things, it can be costly, difficult, and it'll run risks of interrupting critical business processes. So these are some of the reasons why it's not done as often as it should. Um, from the aspect of it taking time, IT departments are already overwhelmed, obviously, with day-to-day tasks of managing complexity and extensive IT infrastructure of our users. And testing can disrupt production systems. So many test procedures require that you bring down production in order to validate a test, and if traditional restore processes are used, this downtime process can be very impactful. So much so that there may be felt needs to cut corners in the process, obviously, which leads to false positives, higher risk, and wasted time. In addition to customer infrastructures that can vary greatly, causing most of the testing procedures to be one-offs. So testing can also be costly on the money part. You know, outside providers are playing um, uh, an increasing role in ensuring that, you know, this isn't an issue. So engineering resources would be um, you know, better used dealing with other things because of the costs associated with this that can keep organizations from doing it. Gartner, for example, ran a study about this a few years ago and found that traditional DR tests can cost organizations anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000. And then you have undocumented DR plan. While most organizations will claim to have documented DR plans, most are not regularly updated, and that's a huge issue because our environments are ever changing, evolving. We're adding machines, taking away machines, applications. So without proper documentation, that can leave an organization very exposed. So again, while most organizations will claim to have a documented DR plan, most are not regularly updated. Are dependent on low key value uh, acts, I'll say, where we're writing things on a spreadsheet or a Word doc, or it's saved on somebody's hard drive where nobody else knows about it. They're difficult to locate. So testing will more than likely create the need to update the plan, requiring more time spent on something everyone hopes will never be used. So these are some of the most popular excuses for not testing. Time and money, really, and the overhead that goes with that. So let's explore why the old excuses are no longer valid. So an old excuse was that it takes time. Well, with a solution like ours, we see that that's not going to be an issue anymore. With the Unitrends recovery assurance, things are fully automated from the standpoint of testing the backups. Results are emailed to the user and stakeholders for a simple review that shows everything was successful. And the fact that it's emailing it after it's doing it and it's automated means that it's always going to be staying up to date and fresh. Old excuse 2: testing can disrupt production systems. Again, not anymore. Testing can be conducted within isolated sandbox environments, isolated labs that can shield production applications, where they can be run either on premises or in the cloud. Obviously, Unitrends is cloud enabled, to allow you to run these procedures both on premises as well as in the cloud. Oftentimes, additional storage um, isn't required with this approach to be able to do that. And then another old excuse: testing costs money. And the capabilities of what we're talking about are baked into the solution. So make sure we help you understand how that's licensed and included um, into the solution. So again, while testing will never totally be free, um, we want to uh, make sure that we understand the value that this brings um, because of how it's baked into the appliance licensing. Another old excuse is having an undocumented DR plan. We have no direction to go, no compass that can tell us this. And what we're doing is providing the means so that our customers can become DR specialists and have an easy and simple approach to doing this with the help of um, your solution that you have there to do that with. Um, Next, I want to talk about next generation DR testing technologies, and again, drive the point of the importance of what recovery assurance brings to the table. Because it's something that can run either locally on a backup appliance that you have on-prem or in the cloud. So if you're doing backup replication to the cloud, recovery assurance can automatically test and certify full business service recoverability using backups. So now backups in DR are working hand in hand with this approach so that the entire infrastructure is recreated and booted up to ensure that all the data and application dependencies are correct. And recovery assurance can be directed to use as many as 50 built-in tests. So what I was talking about earlier with screenshot verifications not being good enough, yes, you can back something up, yes, you can boot it, but how do you ensure the health of the machine? Unitrends with the recovery assurance provides 50 built-in tests that are appropriate for your environment, and that will include things like running and verifying a database query. Think about it for DR testing. You want to make sure the application can actually come back online and communicate and do the things it needs to. So it'll enable you to add these queries into those application databases to make sure they're running. Mailbox transport submission on Exchange, validating service availability, build and run your own custom scripts. A lot of our customers will use recovery assurance to write their own scripts that look for uh, encrypted data where it was never meant to be there. And they use that as an indication for ransomware attacks, as yet another set of eyes taking a look at the environment and alerting them on any threats that may arise like that. Unitrends Recovery Assurance verifies the success of each point in time that an application is protected. So this is again the power of having backup and DR and testing working hand in hand. Every time a backup is taken, Recovery Assurance runs its process against that application to ensure in an automated fashion that it can actually function. So it with that is included built-in analytics that can assess the impact of an outage in terms of its projected downtime, as well as data loss. It also reports on the results of recovery testing to business stakeholders without any setup being required. It's a one-time thing where you identify if you have any server dependencies or orchestrated recoveries that need to be happening, and it basically takes that playbook that you give it and it executes upon that and show you the results of those tests in emailed reports. So it shows the results of the recovery testing, and it presents this information. And I'll show you a screenshot here, in the form of RPO and RTO and what the actuals are against those. So it records how long these operations took, and I took a screenshot with some failures in it because we want to see that when something goes wrong, which it could, it'll be with ample time to actually take care of the issue and fix it, and ensuring that you're able to react. That's the whole point of testing, is making sure you identify these issues before before you have to deal with them in a real life scenario. And what's powering this is data copy management. So backups are not just for recovery anymore. There's so much value that can be extracted from backups that we're tapping into with something like this to use the latest backups and do the spin up testing, recording how the recoverability of the data looks like. So copy data management it's a concept that we have within the solution that on command spins up tests, dev environments identical to your production ones because they use the latest backups. So if you have any scenarios where you also want to run some patch testing on servers in a safe environment and you want that not to impact your production, this is perfect for that. So the technology makes the latest data and application lab environment available instantly for those testing purposes. It is possible that if a software patch needs to be tested against production applications, you probably want to use something like this to minimize hours of engineering time and ensuring that these patches will work against production systems. You know, use something like this to spin up in a sandbox environment and ensure that that things will run safely, and then you can, with confidence, roll it out to production. So these compliance tests and needs for fast recovery without the element of surprise, you know, makes recovery assurance a great fit for improving that posture for testing. And the great thing is once all testing is finished, the entire environment that is stood up to do this test is just as easily torn back down. Want to highlight on the criticality of, you know, the other element that it provides in documenting, and a well-documented DR plan is critical to the testing process. IT has typically created disaster recovery plans, again in Excel or Word, that are then filed away and dusted off rarely. These can be hard to manage, store, and have limited access to those when needed. We have a tool I want to bring everybody's attention to on the Unitrends website. We have a BCDR link under products, free tools, and that basically can help you build and customize a DR plan for your organization. A lot of our customers like to use that tool because it helps you think of all the elements that you would need to have when dealing with a disaster. So not only is it talking about the systems that need to be spun up, but it also what you know who the stakeholders are to notify. Also, if you're going to notify the FBI, if you're dealing with something like a ransomware, the template follows most up-to-date guidelines for ISO standard 2231, I think, that specifies security requirements for disaster recovery preparedness. So, you know, you could look that up and it'll have all the items that it ensures are covered, and it lays it all out. You can actually you know print it out after you've provided all the information that you need, and you can create multiple user accounts so that different stakeholders within the organization know how to properly react should there be a disaster that impacts the organization. So it's great because it allows everybody to know where it is. It allows you to, you know, bake that into your DR planning for the organization. Is you know, when something like this happens, sometimes, you know, not to be morbid, sometimes we, you know, there are instances where there are certain individuals are not available to help an organization react. They could be busy with ensuring their own their own families are taken care of, and this way you have knowledge spread across multiple stakeholders, like I said, that can help um, react. So, world-class DRaaS providers will offer white glove services. And when talking about the solution being cloud ready and enabled, this is exactly what we're talking about. Your on-prem appliances and backup solutions from Unitrends are cloud empowered and enabled. Unitrends provides its own cloud services, and with that comes a white glove aspect of our service that frees you from having to learn, manage, and deploy your own recoveries in the cloud. That's a very big task to take on when having to deal with backup testing, DR recoveries. It's something that helps you set up the entire recovery process so that critical applications are handled in the way that they should be, given their criticality and importance. And restores are initiated by a phone call. So once your DR plan is set up using a Unitrends White Glove service, I urge everybody to look into that for implementation. In my 15 years of being here, was on the cloud team. I was the guy you worked with to basically prepare your disaster recovery planning, ensuring that systems are identified, networking, boot priorities, orchestration, and with that, we're able to tier our disaster recovery as a service testing services in ways that can help you achieve tighter SLAs, service level agreements, for recovery time. So we have options that provide 1 as well as 24-hour service level agreements in writing for application recovery, so that you can rest assured that your business critical applications can actually be recovered. And that's, again, put into writing in a contract. We definitely like to think of ourselves as one of the only, if not the only, solution out there that's combining the on-premises backup that now ties to the cloud, that ties to white glove services, while still providing contractual SLAs for recovery and testing, no matter where that data is, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. So begs a question, right? Okay, if this sounds great, I'm doing all of this. How often should I actually be testing it? And so what we have for advice, just and based on years of experience and thousands of environments handled and worked with, you should have that automatic testing functionality and no less than a monthly cadence to actually do this. Companies using the next generation technology can do frequent testing of their entire client infrastructure using that recovery assurance from Unitrends to greatly reduce the risk of recovery. That's what this is all about. So if this is a case, you should be testing automatically. We believe, and again, at least monthly and on demand after changes are made to your infrastructure. Can't stress that enough. When changes happen, testing needs to happen because the goalposts have moved. So the environment, we always have to remind and remember that environments are not static. They're ever changing. And so testing becomes extremely important to ensure that we're always in the know of what our readiness posture is. Adding new applications also is another area that introduces potential elements of surprise, virtualizing new servers, upgrading software. Moving assets, between sites or to the cloud. All of these can break elements of DR planning, right? So we want to make sure that we continuously do this exercise to make sure that our data stays up to date. So make sure you're testing and retesting after infrastructure changes are made. And you want to time the cadence of that to the cadence of the changes that are being made. So if you're in an environment that has more frequent changes, that's going to introduce more elements of surprise. That's going to make it ever so more important to do more testing to make sure that you're ready for any. Testing is so important that you should include this metric in any DR purchase, whether Unitrends or anybody. This way you ensure faster and easier recovery testing. You should definitely choose a solution that provides these capabilities in an automated fashion, but also not one that's going to nickel and dime you and have that included with the solution capabilities like what we're providing here. So with that said, I wanted to ask our hosts if it would be okay to spend a couple of minutes in the actual UI of the appliance, and I do want to make sure that we leave some room for Q&A and see what questions we can answer from folks.
Yeah, Mohammed, go ahead. You don't want me running it, so I would say it's going to be more successful with you on there. So go ahead.
Come on, Shawn. I know you can demo Unitrends.
I would get in there. You know that. And I'm thinking about I got to back up my own stuff now. So
we're going to get you certified after the webinar.
All right. Thanks. Go ahead.
All right. Let me bring it up here real quick. And we'll get started. You should be seeing the interface of the appliance. Lincoln, do you see it?
Confirmed.
Thank you. Thank you. So, folks, this is the Unitrends appliance, and when we talk about the Unitrends appliance, we're talking about a solution that's going to run on premises that has the ability to back up your infrastructure. The appliance itself and what we're looking at here can either be run as a hardened physical appliance that is network connected and basically can snapshot virtual machines, protect physical servers, applications within, or it can be run as a virtual machine. And here I have my VMware environment, but you can basically run it either as a physical appliance or as a VM if you have your own storage and resources to run the appliance. The appliance is served up via the HTML5 UI that you see here. You can see I have it tied into our domain for access, but it also has its own local user accounts that can be created. The underlying operating system of our appliance is on CentOS 7, where you can basically think of it as a hardened Linux appliance. So ports of access are limited to the functionality of the solution. It's Linux, so by nature of that, it's less susceptible to the ransomware attacks. Knock on wood, we have been in existence since 1989. We have not had a single incident where any ransomware attacks were successfully able to penetrate our solution. And I mentioned that because you may be wondering why is he going into that? Because we're seeing ransomware guys and girls are so creative now that they are attacking Windows-based backup products, deleting the backups, encrypting the production data, and cornering the organization to pay the money. Why are they deleting the backups? Because they know that's the last line of defense that the organization has to be able to recover. So we wanted to ensure an approach that helps with taking out the elements of surprise, like I've been saying, and that is by having an approach where it's a hardened Linux appliance, less susceptible to ransomware attacks, but also gives you the ability to do all the testing we talked about right within the product. So this recovery assurance tile in my dashboard here, this is interactive, by the way, shows me all of those items that we were talking about. I could see that I'm meeting my compliance for recovery point and recovery time objectives, which means that the solution, if you think about it, this means that the solution helped me identify what those objectives are, but it didn't stop there like we see with a lot of others. It identified those and then it told me whether or not I'm able to meet them. So I could see what tests were successful. If I had any that failed, again, that's important to show here. And I can very quickly go into those reports and see what transpired during those tests. And as you can see, the level of detail here is exactly what's needed, but without the time spent having to do something like this. We still talk to a lot of organizations that have folks, like I said, either never doing DR tests or doing them so infrequently because they're actually having to do all of this stuff manually. We're talking with a stopwatch, timing how long things took to be able to record all of that and then compile all of this information into spreadsheets, Word docs that show how the recovery went when it can be, easily done from here. So let me take a quick minute to show you how I even got to this point and how I built it. Under configure here is where I was able to acquaint my appliance to the environments that I want to protect. So very quickly here under the protected assets, this is where you can introduce your business applications and servers that need to be protected. And you can see here the solution does a nickel and dime on what you can add to it. So it's capacity based. You can add whatever exists in the infrastructure that you want to protect, virtual environments, and then it will identify those in the background and now enable you to start creating that protection. And that's where that predictability and cost that we were talking about comes into play here, because you're able to identify these things, back them up without, again, the hassle of all the licensing implications. So I can very quickly see the status of my backups, replication to the cloud. Things are running successfully. And I was able to very easily set up jobs that help me shape the protection of the environment the way it needs to be protected. So if I look at Job Manager here, that dashboard tiled result where we were showing all the itemized recovery assurance jobs, there's recovery assurance job. If I show you some of the details of it, where it identifies what machines are going to be included in this test. I'm going to go ahead and show you what you can do when you actually run these tests that we're talking about. So think about all the tasks that are manual that I was talking about that folks used to have to do. Now you can do with a click of a button. That takes n-tiered application servers that are stored into one job area, and you can very quickly run a test. So as far as active jobs go, you can start to see the recovery assurance unfolding to create these isolated environments from those systems that you've backed up, and put them back into play, ensuring their recoverability and health is basically intact. So it shows you the breakdown of the machines when you look at the details of the machines that are being recovered, and it's working on documenting all of those details that would otherwise be mundane to get an idea of how things are playing out for the recoverability. So you could see things as they're running, bringing up interdependencies with applications, orchestrating all of that. So if I'm going to peel the layers a little bit more and show you how we even a deeper look at how we even got here, you're able to see that under Protect. And there's a lot of intuitiveness built into, how you navigate the elements and where you're doing certain things from. Data copy access here is basically where I was able to build something like that. So we've taken all of those steps that used to prevent organizations from doing testing and combined it into a simple 4-step wizard that identifies, what machines you want to conduct backups of. And the next step, you decide where these environments are to be spun up, what goals you want to measure against, how frequently you want things to run, and then the orchestration piece of identifying, okay, if I'm running a test on server with certain functionality, these are the tests that I was talking about, over 50 tests that are out of the box available. You're able to specify what exactly you want running against the machine, whether it's application queries or checking services to get to that level of testing. And all of what you're seeing here is done exactly the same way, both on-prem as well as in the cloud, to ensure recoverability from both, and taking out that element of surprise. So if you're interested in looking at a more detailed demo of this, obviously I wanted to very quickly touch on various aspects here just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. Please reach out, let us know, and we'd be happy to schedule a more in-depth session with our team. Shawn, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Mohammad. I appreciate that. And what we wanted to do is just to open up the room for everyone, if anybody had any questions, to address it, because I know I'm going to be thinking about my backup, especially when everybody gets their bourbon. I think the first sip they take, I think they're probably all going to think, is my backup safe? So I just wanted to pose that out there for everybody so that when you do get that package in the mail, you're taking your first drink, that's the one thing you're thinking of. But after that, any questions from the audience at this point?
Yes, we do have a few. I can read them out. Good. One of them is a two-part question. The question is, can the virtual appliance be run in the cloud? Are there any limitations? The second part to that, and can you store on-prem backup sources to backup targets in the cloud and vice versa?
Yes. So the first question about the virtual appliance, the answer is absolutely. The base hypervisor that is supported, it basically answers that, and that's VMware Hyper-V. It can run on Nutanix. So if your cloud consists of any of those, you're able to certainly run the virtual appliance there. If what you mean by cloud, more of the hyperscale cloud, such as the AWS or Azure, we're in the marketplace for both, where we can back up and deploy there. Can I take on-prem workloads? The second part of the question, can I take on-prem workloads and restore those to the cloud? The answer is absolutely. Unitrends appliances have the ability to replicate data from on-prem to the cloud and have the spin-up capability done in the cloud. And that's where that white glove service comes into play. That's where we will spend time with you to plan that out and ensure that all the nuances of recovery are covered, networking, boot priorities, testing, and ensure that it can come up. And very quickly, I want to add to that, we will spin up machines into an ecosystem similar to what they had on-prem. So our cloud sites, which we have over 5 across the continental United States, have the VMware farms, the Hyper-V, the enterprise-grade storage, the isolated environments with firewalls to ensure that recovery can happen here or there.
Awesome. And we have another question that asks, is there a way to secure the delete of backup, maybe with multiple people involved and special tokens linked to physical devices?
Yes. So there's various levels of encryption available. All the encryption is 256-bit AES. There are, abilities for multiple people to log in. There's role-based access control, and there are some legal hold options that can be deployed to ensure that deletion doesn't happen without the parties involved being in agreement.
Awesome, thank you. And we have a loaded one here. Someone's asking, we currently use Veeam for backup. How does your solution compare?
Unitrends that's a great question, by the way, as all the others have been. Veeam, we definitely see as a competitor. Veeam is a great solution. It's a big name. It's capable. Unitrends provides. Here's how I want to put that. The way we compare is we're doing everything Veeam can with virtual machine snapshots, with physical server protection. We'll go even a little bit deeper in that regard with the agents that we have that cover over 250 operating systems and applications. We can be a physical appliance as compared to Veeam, who's just software. But that stuff I was talking about with the security of the solution and being immutable, not susceptible to ransomware attacks. So unlike the Veeam that runs as a Windows software, Unitrends runs as a hardened Linux appliance. So it provides all of what Veeam provides, but in a more secure fashion. Plus, Unitrends has its own cloud sites, unlike Veeam, who would have to use their Cloud Connect.
Awesome. And just a few more questions if y'all have the time. One individual saying, great demo. Can I also review it on your website? Or, can I also review it on your website?
Yes. I think I'm sharing my call to action slide. Let me make sure that it's up.
You are. Still currently.
So, yeah, we have URLs here where you can get more information off of the website for sure. We also have a YouTube channel where you can get access to various topics of backup and DR.
Okay.
Good
and
question.
I can confirm that, yes, this recording will be sent to all attendees. So for those of you who are also wondering, yes, we will send it out to you as soon as it downloads via WebEx. And a follow-up to her question is all the backup done in the U.S.?
Was the question, is all the backup done in the United States?
Correct.
Correct. That was the
100%.
question. Sorry. Yes.
It is. Data centers are in the U.S. Even our support organization is in the U.S. and our sales and marketing is out of Boston, Massachusetts, and our R&D is headquartered in Columbia, South Carolina, as is our support organization. Yep.
Awesome. And then someone was asking for some clarification to a question you answered a few moments ago. Did you say that there's a backup to the backup? Like in case the backup gets hacked, then you have another one to deploy?
Yes.
He was asking for clarification.
Yeah.
Okay.
We use what's called backup copy technology, and backup copies can be done to a plethora of storage mediums to create a backup of a backup. And obviously the Unitrends Cloud is one of those hot backup copy options. If you want to, have a site-to-site type of deployment where you create backup copies within your own locations, you could do that as well.
Awesome. And the last question I see, unless someone has any more, is someone's wondering, what is your pricing model?
That's where I call on Lincoln.
Thanks, Mo. We have no client-side licensing whatsoever. So from a virtual appliance perspective, we're licensing on resources similar to other backup technologies in the industry. With our all-in-one turnkey appliance, we're essentially fully maxing the license out on that when it ships from the factory. We would work with Mo or a member of his team along with the Netsync team to understand your capacity needs, your data footprint, your retention requirements, and then build out a solution with the appropriate storage to meet those needs. And it's the appliances are just storage based from a pricing perspective. So they go from 2 terabytes up to 120, and then you can stack them if you need to and manage them through a single pane of glass. Hope that answered your question.
Well, thank you, Lee. And it sounds like you guys will do a deal for everybody, is what I heard. So just like we want to go ahead and thank our presenters. We want to thank all of the attendees for jumping on. I want to be cognizant of your time. Thank you. This will be posted, as we did say. The bourbon will be shipping out for the attendance after the event. And if there are any other questions, please feel free to engage the Netsync team or engage the Unitrends team. Thank you once again. Have a great day. Be safe.